FHA kind of uses this as kind of like a pseudo homestead, right? For VA, yeah, they will address like safety related issues, but only based on local code. For example, bunching carpet. You're never going to see, that's not a local code thing. You're never going to get a VA, well, you shouldn't, a VA condition for bunched up carpet. So that's kind of the difference. FHA has their own kind of just certain guidelines.
If we were to, is that something we could push back on?
Possibly, just makes you know the code. Like for me, whenever I get like a really detailed question about something VA, we have this home inspector friend that I just bounce it off to him because I don't even know all this.
All right, I just made it co-host.
Okay. Ah, okay. Sure. All right. Okay.
Are we back up?
Thank
All right,
you.
awesome.
You're welcome. Sorry about that.
And we're back.
Okay.
All right, so just to recap that real quick. So conventional loans, you generally, I mean, has everyone ever gotten conditioned for a conventional loan? If you should, you can push back. Okay, if the house exists, it's usually going to be okay for conventional. VA, like we said earlier, is going to be state and local code. No, I shouldn't say state, local code. And then FHA is going to be the one that's going to be kind of the higher standard. So if you're listing a house or you have a buyer that you know is going to be FHA, guys, it is incumbent upon you to understand these conditions, because if it gets conditioned and it holds the loan up, it's not really on us. The agent needs to know these things. All right. I'll give you an example. We went to a house 2 days ago. Show up. The agent, when I say should have known, okay, the house was built in 1893. There wasn't 1 square inch of this house. It didn't have a quarter size piece of paint peeling off of it. And they act surprised when I said, hey, listen, guys, they're going to condition this. Okay. They should have never even gotten that far to the order of the appraisal. Right. They should know that it's not going to be an FHA loan. In order for it to be FHA, they're going to have to completely repaint the entire thing.
Okay.
So why that's important? If you get me and I come out to do an FHA inspection, if I see that there's a problem, it's going to be they're going to flag it. 9 times out of 10, what's up, bro? 9 times out of 10, I'm going to call you from the house. Say, hey, this is going to be an issue. This is going to be an issue. The reason I do that is because if I transmit the report, the loan officer might not see it for 2 weeks. Okay, then they got to get back. It holds everything up. Okay, but most appraisers.
So that if they might get you, there's 2 loan officers here that are here today to use them. You really might get us.
Yeah.
FYI.
Yeah, that's how you pick your appraiser. He's right on us. But I've heard stories, for example, of an FHA appraiser coming out, conditioned for chipping paint. They come out, scrape a hole in chipping paint, you paint it, the appraiser comes back out, finds chipped paint in the grass, conditions for that. And you have people in Tyvek suits out there vacuuming up the top quarter inch top. I mean, it can get crazy. So it's better to just avoid that altogether, just get ahead of it. All right. So for FHA, the big thing is just going to be safety. Okay? Instead of trying to remember a bunch of different like criteria, what they look for, et cetera, it's all going to be safety. Chipping paint, missing handrails, bunched up carpet, holes in the floor, type stuff. That makes sense? Any questions on FHA, VA, any of that? All right. So probably one of the biggest tips before we move on to you guys' questions, then we give you guys a reference to VA. This is something that we just found out from our friend Ricky, who is the VA. He's not an appraiser. He is over every appraiser in Virginia, Kentucky, the Mid-Atlantic region. Okay. He came down for us, what, a year ago or so, and taught a class. And the biggest takeaway from this was, who's ever had a challenge in VA appraisal? Most people, right? Okay. I didn't know this, and I'm sure most people don't know this. When you challenge the appraisal, okay, what's the first step? You do the Tidewater, right? Tidewater. Okay, and they write back, no, or whatever. So maybe they'll help you out, maybe they won't. I didn't know this. If you write a letter to the VA well, actually the buyer, the borrower, technically has to write it. If you just write in there, let me tell you what Ricky said, because he's the one that gets these complaints. He said, don't try to pick apart the appraiser. Don't try to pick apart the appraisal. Because I mean, most of the time, I'm just saying this, it's not going to get very far because it takes a lot to become an appraiser and they stand behind their work, and a lot of times they're not going to change. But as far, hey, how are you? But for VA, if you write in and just say what's going on with the borrower, okay, they've been looking for a house for 3 months, they have orders, they have the kids need to go to school, their stuff's in storage. VA can actually go ahead and insure that loan over the appraised value. Okay, so let's say the house went under contract for 320, the appraisal came back at 300. You write through the Tidewater, like, no, the comps aren't there, yada yada, right? When you write this letter, again, not picking apart the appraiser or the appraisal, just tell the VA what's going on with the veteran, because that's who they're there to work for, to protect. They can actually go ahead and issue or secure that loan over the appraised value. They won't change the value of the loan. It'll stand at 300, but they can go ahead and issue at 320 and you're good to go. Okay. Does anybody know that?
No.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure the LAs know it, but like a lot of agents have, I didn't know that. Okay.
VA contact local, or is that a piece?
They're in Rona, based out of Rona. And he probably got mad when I started telling everybody that, because the amount of like requests he must have skyrocketed, but he got promoted to that position anyway, so we're not gonna, won't bother anymore.
How long would this take to send a letter out? And we would have to do the Tidewater first, right? Take care of that and then
As far as I
then
know,
send a
yeah.
letter.
Yeah, and I think they have
5 days, 5 business days to get back
for the Tidewater.
for the review for the waiver.
Okay,
Okay.
So do we do this along with the Tidewater, submit the Tidewater and have the buyer send a letter?
Well, the Tidewater's gonna go to the appraiser
yeah, Tidewater's first.
and then,
And sometimes like the appraiser might not be a jerk, right? Like I'm not just saying this, I am incredibly easy to get along. All right. Incredible. If I come in low, it's because it isn't there. I can't find it. It's not in the comps. It's not in the data set, and I don't want to lose my license. Okay. Sometimes it's just not there. Right. But there are some appraisers out there who are just like any other profession, they're a jerk, right? You can have a jerk as a professor or a bus driver or a doctor. We're the same. Okay. Yeah, or agent.
if the value is anywhere on that bottom spread, then it's a good chance that you could be granted.
Can you actually pull up a grid? When she says bottom spread, oh, this is even water. What am I doing?
It is your water.
Oh,
Got
thank
that for
you. Thank you. When she says bottom spreads, and we pick everyone's seen an appraisal before, right?
Yes.
So these are on the bottom, these are the adjusted values here, okay? You can't see it because I cut it off, but up here, comp 1, comp 2, comp 3, you'll have the sales price. So I'm just gonna guess and say 750, 810, whatever. So as long as in this spread, I've got a comp that at least meets or exceeds the sales price of the house, then the VA can actually use that and he can just go above the appraised value. Doesn't mean the appraised value is wrong. Okay. They're just trying to help the veteran. Okay. Any questions on that? That's probably the big one. Probably just I'll go home now because that's probably it's the biggest one. So any questions on any of that before I get to you guys' questions that Thomasina said? All right.
Did you already go into the second consideration?
What's that?
You can do first step in the consideration, or you can go into the questions,
Oh,
just because you were talking about.
oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, that's a good point. So while we're talking about asking the appraiser to change their value, okay? So the first step of reconsideration of value, it says here, don't call the appraisal directly. Typically, everyone's heard the Dodd-Frank 07, 08, what happened back then. Who was in business back then? I wasn't. I was a detective back then. So it used to be that the appraiser could actually be like a house appraiser for the bank. Anyone see where this would be an issue?
Yeah.
Right? Like, we go to lunch together every day. You know, I'm gonna be incentivized to make sure that these, and even at the time, and appraisers are kind of held to a harder standard because if you weren't making value on these houses, they would just find another appraiser, right? So I'm not saying it's right, but that is what happened. So as a result, they decided to remove the appraiser from the lending process altogether, make us completely independent, completely separate. Okay. So what they said was you can't try to influence the appraiser, right? Let's talk about what influence is and what influence isn't. okay? You coming to the house to meet me there, bringing me comps and telling me all the positive attributes of the house is not influencing me. That's just you doing your job, okay? Again, that's from my perspective. I've heard of people have appraisers. I think the worst one I heard was, an agent said, I tried to give the appraiser my comps. He said, I don't want your comps. And as a matter of fact, don't talk to me for the rest of the assignment because whatever. And I'm like, how is this person in business still? Like, really? Yeah, and that person's wrong, straight up. Appraiser influence means if you don't change the value, I'm gonna report you to the state board. That's appraiser influence, and that's happened to us once. So yeah, that's not, anyways, so you can't, as a result of that, you can't call the appraiser directly. Okay, you have to go through the portal. And as we were talking before and stepped out, it makes it a pain in the butt. The LO may have a super simple question, but because it's got to go through a third-party portal and it gets emailed or texted to us and have to respond sometimes to a really difficult question through email, through a third party, it'd be so much easier if we just called you guys, but we can't, okay? And unfortunately, so the way the rules work, I can do whatever I want. I can call whoever I want, okay? I won't get in trouble. The LO will get in trouble if he answers my call or answers my questions, but I can call whoever I want. Unfortunately, a lot of appraisers have used this as a way to kind of hide behind it, right? You can't talk to me at all, can't ask me any questions. I can live in my bubble and just be that way. It's not the way it was really ever meant to be. It was just supposed to take the appraiser out of the in-house lending process. So you go with the LO. So, you know, talk to the loan officer, tell them your problem, and have them contact the appraiser and get the reconsideration of value going. Now, again, when you ask it, you're not going to get very far typically just trying to crap on the appraiser or the appraisal, unless there was a legit mistake. Okay, we're humans, right? We miss comps. We might, you know, there could be a sale that happened. The neighbor's house could have just sold. It was off-market sale. We didn't see it because we just pulled from the MLS, but we might have an extra $10,000 that we need. That's a lot different. All right. We can definitely miss things, but trying to just rip the appraisal apart isn't going to work.
So for sale by owners could be used as a comp.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And if you know of one, right, this is why I like when appraisers or agents meet me at the house. If you know of an off-market sale, you need to let me know, because if I go to do my comp search and in my data set, I've got ample data, I'm not going to go through the rigmarole of going to the city and search for it. But if you tell me there's one, that's different. All right, then I can get pull it up. All right. Any questions so far before I go to some of you guys' questions that you sent?
And if anybody has questions online, please feel free to post them in the chat.
Okay, so for FHA loans, does a bathroom and half bath have to be in the livable space in order to count toward the bathroom count? Can it be, like, for example, can it be in the pool house or can it be in the garage and still count? The answer is no. Okay, so if you have, let's say, actually, this just happened to me.
Rephrase that question again, that was fast, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
That was a little quick.
yeah, I was just reading off of this.
No, you're good.
For FHA loans, does a bathroom or half bath have to be in a livable space in order to count toward the bathroom count? Can it be half bath in a garage, still count as a half bath?
It's like in a detached structure.
Right.
Okay.
Or an
got it.
attached, like an attached garage. Can a half bath be in an attached garage and still?
It's just
count?
not considered livable condition space.
Right.
The
Yeah,
garage is not.
Yep.
Just wanted to push briefly.
I did read it really fast.
Sorry.
I'd already read it like twice, I just kind of spit it out. So can we use, so for example, we just did one, it was a detached garage, had a full bath in the detached garage, right? I don't know why, but it did.
It's there.
So does it count to the bathroom count? No. Okay, doesn't count to a bathroom count. Even if it's in the garage, which is attached, the garage is not heated and cooled. So it's not, livable square footage. However, I mean, are you gonna get value for it? Absolutely. Okay, I'm gonna find some way to give you value. A house is like a cake. Everything that goes into it matters. All right. So, even though one goes to the overall count, there will be a line, it'll say like, overall conditions and upgrades. You don't have to pull everything. It's not a big deal. But we'll find a way to put it in the grid and use it. Okay, but no, you can't use it as overall script. Great question. So a mother-in-law suite, ADU, right? Even though it is heated square footage, it's not attached to the house, right? With a continuous roof line, so we can't use it as square footage. But you're still going to get value. obviously it has value. I've even had people ask me, send over a request for me to add the square footage of the ADU to the overall square footage, thinking it's gonna get them more money. It won't. It actually is worth more as an ADU. For example, for the square footage adjustment, if you look on, say, Zillow, Redfin, whatever, and it has the square footage, okay? Give me an example, 227 a square foot, 231 a square foot, right? Does anyone search for comps based on square footage? Good. Oh, all right. If you do, follow me. Because I got a revision 2 days ago, right? Asking me, they said the market analysis indicates that it should be at least $250 per square foot for an adjustment. That's completely wrong, okay? All that's doing is using what's called a basic regression analysis. It's taking the house, it's averaging all the prices that have been sold in the area and dividing it by the square footage and just getting a basic number. It doesn't account for sheds, pools, condition, trim, new appliances. It's one metric and it's not accurate. So you'll typically see for, and can you get back to the, you'll typically see for square foot an adjustment somewhere in the range of like 30 to maybe $70 a square foot. Okay, not 200, 30 to 70. Because the value of everything else has been extracted. Make sense? So we're seeing what the value for a garage is here. Everything else. So this right here is only talking about the contributory value of the square footage alone. Everything else is completely separate. Where's they going with that? Oh, the ADU. So if you say you have a 400 square foot ADU mother-in-law suite, right? You may get, I'm just going to throw out a number, $35,000, $40,000 for it generally in the market. If I were to add it as square footage, it'd be like worth a quarter of that. It's actually worth more, not including its square foot. Okay. But just like the garage and anything else, if it has a bathroom, kitchen, something, you can't include it in the overall room count. Okay. But you will get value. Cool. Same thing goes for like a detached, like really nice workshop. Okay. It's got air conditioning, electric, whatever. It's not a shed anymore. It's worth more than a shed. It's a workshop. So you're still going to get your value there for it. Just not in the kind of traditional way you might think.
So with that, would you require a listing agent to change the listing? So like if they have it marketed as, 3 full bathrooms instead of the 2 or whatever, would you go back and say, hey, look, I need this to match my report?
I think it would be proper to change it back, to fix it, to make it a 2-bath, whatever, but just state in the remarks that it has a full bath. So. What the other question? Okay, on an FHA appraisal, does the appraiser have to mark that the roof is good for at least 3 years? And if the roof leaks before that 3 years, is the appraiser responsible for the replacement of the roof? No, no, or not. So what we do now normally, again, I'm not a home inspector. Okay, I know as much about roofs and HVAC systems and hot water heaters as you guys. Okay, honestly. I'm not a home inspector. I'm not trained for that. So for FHA, what we have to do is state, and I believe it's either 3 or 5 years. I should know this. They just took the update class. But if it appears that the roof has less than 3 years or 5, I think it's actually 5 years of life left in the roof, then we have to mention it in the report. It might not be where they actually condition it to get it prepared, but we do have to mention it. And on that, FHA has actually recently changed a lot of their requirements, like for repairs. For example, VA, you guys might know this. If you get a repair item with the VA can just waive it, right? The roof is bad and the appraiser conditions it, the loan officer, the VA can just waive the repair. In the past, FHA was not like that. If you had a required repair, it had to be repaired. There are some now, they're starting to kind of back off a little bit on it. I think roofs might be one of them because they can be replaced later. Some, they're not, like exposed wires, paint chips, stuff like that. They're not going to. But no, we're not required, we're not responsible to replace the roof. I will say this though, if you ever have appraisers who just acting like super squirrely and they're conditioning everything, you have to understand, guys, we get sued all the time. All right. There's an example, I want to say it was in Kentucky 2 years ago. Appraiser comes in, it's for an FHA appraisal. He comes in, takes his pictures, does everything. I believe he stated in his report that there was a carbon monoxide, because it might just be boilerplate in his report, right? But the house actually was no gas at all. It was electric, everything. So he probably just wasn't looking. And then the report left it in there that there was a carbon monoxide detector present. Well, 2 weeks after this young couple closes on the home, I want to say the wife started the car in the garage with the intention to go get groceries or something. Husband came home. They ended up using the same car. They were gone all day, came back, went to bed. Overnight, carbon monoxide built up in the house and they died. Horrible, horrible situation. But then they came back and sued, the family came back to sue the appraiser and everybody else involved, as usually happens, right? But they wanted to sue the appraiser because the appraiser said there was carbon monoxide detectors present in the house.
And it wasn't.
And there wasn't, right? So you have to understand, when appraisers get squirrely about stuff like that, that's why, right? If I miss an exposed wire in an FHA house and somebody's toddler touches it, I mean, I could technically get sued. Okay, so while I try to be really easy to get along with and try not to get in the way, sometimes, you know, and that's why as agents, you guys have to know these guidelines for FHA. Okay, and at the end, we have an FHA checklist we can kick out to you guys just to have it go by, right? It's like you can print it off, pencil and paper, just kind of check it off, make sure you're going to be good.
So do you guys have to carry a bond, you know? like-
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, of course. Oh, of course.
Are rude, and that's the reason why I had an appraiser tell me that he's not being rude, just that he has a lot of responsibilities, and he just wants to go ahead and inspect the house. And then if I had any questions or share anything afterwards, because his mind is focused on
Sure.
the house. So I think sometimes you guys don't tell us why it's so important for you to have your attention on.
Yeah, and some people just aren't great communicators. You know, it could be a completely nice person. And that is true. Like when I get to a house, if someone's following me around and they're trying to ask me questions or talk to me as I'm doing it, I'm going to miss something. Right. So, but I'm not going to tell them, you know, I'm just going to let them follow me around.
And also it might be because we're dealing with human beings. And so maybe something's going on in their life that's making them grumpy.
Yep, for sure. 100%. 100%. Let's see. Okay, does landscaping add value? Who says yes? Who says no? Who says yes? Didn't hurt, that's for sure. I think it can. It totally can. Absolutely. I tell people how I mentioned earlier, house is like a cake. Everything that goes into a cake, you can tell when you eat it, right?
Definitely makes it more aesthetically pleasing.
Right, exactly. Well, again, you mentioned earlier, we're human beings, we're people. So even though, you know, clutter in a house or unmowed grass or whatever, they don't technically affect value, but we're people. And as my father-in-law says, the eye eats first, right? When we walk up to the house, if the house looks like it's been maintained as a human being, I'm going to make that unconscious decision in my mind. Okay, this person takes care of the house, right? This is why when we tell people how to get ready for an appraisal, we have a checklist that we send out. It's all simple stuff like that. Cut your grass. If you can pressure wash the siding, pressure wash the siding. Little thing, yeah, because we're people, human beings. All right. That's not to say it's going to add value to the house. You see what I'm saying? No, but
we like pretty things.
we're human beings. Yeah. If I walk up and I see that, I'm going to immediately think it's been maintained. If the backside of the house is completely green from, you know, whatever algae.
You're gonna start looking for splashback rock.
Yeah, I mean, I'm backing up. I'm like, what else? You know, the grass isn't mown. Is there, you know, water backed up against the foundation?
How much subjectivity is in the calculation?
That's a great question. How do I explain that? A lot.
So the question, just so people can hear it online, because it can get the mic can get a little muted, is how much subjectivity is in the values?
So it's a good question. I would say done properly, the appraisal done properly, there shouldn't be a lot of subjectivity in the overall value. It shouldn't be, okay? The key word there is it was done properly, right? So the grid here, here's an example. I made adjustments on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 data points. You can see appraisers that make adjustments on 16 data points, appraisers that make adjustments on 2 data points. Let's say I'm doing a house in Sandbridge. Could I give you value for an oceanfront house because the lot is oceanfront, or can I give you the value because you have an oceanfront view? 2 different places I can make that adjustment, but you're talking about the same thing. okay? So it's subjective in how we make the adjustments, because again, they compound. If I make an adjustment here, it's gonna affect every other adjustment, okay? They're all compounding adjustments. But overall, as long as, you can see this bottom row here, I know it's hard for you guys to see, but when I start off with, 3 to 6 comps with, say, a 75 to maybe $100,000 spread in overall value, and these adjusted values down here, I've got 736, 732, 734. So in these adjusted values, I'm within 2%. Okay, that's what you really want to look for when you're looking at an appraisal. See if because if you saw an appraisal, and we have one, you don't have to look. It wasn't mine. It was one that we got to review. But I saw it was like a $60,000 spread. Here we go. Yeah, that's it. Again, I don't know this appraiser. I'm not crapping on them, but you saw how tight my adjusted values were, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you look, this one got cut off. This one's also 860 something. So you've got 865, 826. I think this was 860 something, 867. So if that's a $40,000+ spread, what did you throw a dart at the middle? Like, how do you not account for $40,000? Okay, that's not acceptable. So, how subjective is it? If you do it like this, really subjective. Okay. If you do it the other way, it's not that objective. Okay. It should make perfect sense. It should make sense. If I got an appraisal back that had a $40,000, and I think the starting values weren't even that high. Like, I think he didn't make all the many adjustments, but he still got a $40,000 difference. You can't tell me you just throw your hands up and walk away and not know where $40,000 is missed. That's substantial amount of the overall value. So does that answer your question? It can be subjective, but it really shouldn't be. Okay. And when we do this, it's not an exact science, it's an applied science. So you can do this a couple of different, you can actually do it different ways. You can make the values adjust different ways, but overall, if your spread across the bottom is that big, then you're just picking a number in the middle, which isn't accurate. Anybody else have anything before I get some more questions?
Does painting a house as well?
Painting? Oh, absolutely. Yeah, painting absolutely has value. Yeah, again, everything has value, but like adjustments on the grid that are compounding, right? You guys understand what I mean by compounding? Improvements on a house are compounding. Okay, so if you have a house that let's say we call what's called a C4 condition. C4 means below average condition. And you paint that house, it's not going to make that much of a difference. Okay, but when you paint it, you add trim, you replace the floors. Now these things start to compound, and then the value increases. For example, if you went into our house, which we're still renovating, just putting in granite countertops isn't going to change much, right? But granite countertops with the floors and paint and everything else.
We need lots of appraisals at CMP.
Okay, so here's a question. Is there a difference in value between a 1-story and a 2-story home? I love this question. Everybody's like, I'm not even gonna make you guys guess. Okay, here's what people think. Single family homes sell higher per square foot because people want to live on one level. True, false? Okay. When you analyze the market, though, which actually makes sense to me. Okay, it makes sense that people want to live on one level. You have to understand we're looking at the market from a macro perspective. Okay, for every buyer who's looking for a single level, you have equal buyers who are looking for 2 levels. So, is it true that you may have a client that only wants single level housing and they're willing to pay a premium for it? Absolutely, you're going to run into that. Okay, but overall, does it mean that colonials are worth less than ramblers or ranches? What do we call them here? Depending on where you go in the country, it changes. I got to mix it up. You're going to see they basically are all the same. I use Red Mill a lot for an example, the community of Red Mill, because you either have one or the other. Generally, there's either colonials that basically all look the same, or ranches that basically all look the same size, whatever. If you look at the price per square foot, our adjusted price per square foot, not the Zillow one, okay, our adjusted price per square foot, you'll see that they're about the same. Okay, so overall, no, single level houses aren't just inherently worth more, and it's very likely you have a buyer that wants a single level house and is willing to pay more. Okay, so I think that's where it kind of comes from, the idea that single level houses are worth more money. Anybody disagree with me on that?
It costs more to like do the roof to build a single family versus a 2-story.
I think from a builder's perspective, yeah, it probably does cost them more. Yeah,
Because if it's 3,000 and 3,000 square feet, you got 3,000 square feet of roof.
right.
There you got like 15 to 1,600 square feet.
Yeah, you're probably right about that. Yeah, yeah,
You got more brick too, yeah.
yeah. And even, the foundation, the foundation size,
How do you present house difference? Size?
different lot sizes. That's actually one of the questions. That's a great question. So,
So hold on, real quick.
okay.
Just a question on, for those online is how do you appraise a home that has different lot sizes?
so just like anything else, we look at the contributory value of a lot, of the square foot for the lot, all right? So we mentioned before that a typical spread that we'll see for the square footage is, say, has gone up, say $35 to $70. Up here for the site area, you can actually see on this one, we didn't make any adjustment at all for site area. The reason we don't is because we'll apply, say, 50 cents per square foot or maybe $1 per square foot within $1,000, which means if there's no adjustment, if it comes up to be like $568, I don't make an adjustment because it implies that it's more accurate than it is. And it doesn't work like this. This isn't a formula-based approach, okay? So if I stuck you in a backyard with the subject here, the 11,000 square foot site area, there's not a lot of us in here who could go over to this comp with 13,000 and tell any difference whatsoever. It's just not, they just won't. How many, you have to look to, like, when you have buyers, if they're really looking for a house, they got orders here from San Diego, they're here, they gotta get in a house, they gotta get their kids into school. Are they gonna care that there's a 3,000 square foot bigger yard? Probably not, okay? It's not a main market driver. Now, when we get in talking about larger acreage, is different, okay? We're talking about 5 acres plus, a different ballgame. But generally for the square footage of this site, very minimal adjustments, okay? But if we were want to compare one of these to a house, let's say 5 acres or so, and we might have to do that sometimes. Like everything else might be perfect, but it might be 5 acres. We need the comp to frame everything else. Well, then you're going to see those big dollar adjustments for site area. But generally, if it's within, this kind of typical spread, it's just not warranted. Yeah, and it's not a personal choice. None of this is me deciding what's worth value and it's not. This is what the market says. Okay. For example, all copper plumbing. It's expensive. Pipes don't burst. I get it. Try to show me in a market value analysis how it has any value whatsoever. Because it doesn't. You can't glean that from the market. You just simply can't. So for site area, it kind of falls into that when they're close, when they're pretty homogeneous. But when they get a little bigger, then make different adjustments. Did that answer your question? Oh, yes, great question. So back to kind of goes, we're falling back on, 1 level versus 2 level. Britt just reminded me, and this is a question we get a lot, is when you guys are looking for comps, if you have a comp that's, if your subject is a ranch, can you use a colonial for a comp or vice versa, right? Ideally, we want to compare apples to apples, right? And I'd love to find, this is a ranch, which it is. I'd love to find all ranches. That's beautiful, okay? But it's not always going to happen. So say we have a pool, okay? And all the ranches, none of them have pools, but there's a colonial that has a pool. There's a recent. Yeah, we throw it for the 3rd or 4th one, because you have to have everything framed. So you should try to use the same style house when you compare. However, if there's something you have to frame to get a value, you might have to get a different style. You guys know what I mean by frame? Okay. It has to be framed. So for example, so we have a 2-car garage, and then, well, this sounds bad because you can't see the rest of the grid, but these are all 1-car garages. This is comps 1 through 3, and comps 4 through 6. We do have comps that are 2-car garages. But if we didn't, and I made this $7,500 adjustment, I'm just pulling it out of thin air. Okay. So I have to have it framed. I have to have a comp of at least a 2-car garage, even a 3-car garage, to frame it. That's how we derive our values in the market. Okay, here's another one. Does proximity to a beach, town center, or other attractions add or diminish value? Obviously, yes, okay, close to the beach, it's gonna get value. The tricky part comes with the diminishing side of things, okay, so being close to things that diminish value would be back up to like an industrial park, like houses that are close, train tracks, things like that.
Also, if you back up to a lower income neighborhood and say yours is middle class and, you know, your backyard separates my fence to some $150,000 apartment.
Sure.
Would that affect the value of my?
It shouldn't, and there's another question you guys had that, what does it say? Well, there's another one that says, do rundown homes close by, bring down the value? Kind of goes into that question too. And no, it should. And I heard you mention before, we were talking about like proximity thing.
Yeah.
What you said was correct, because they should all be affected by the same, yeah. They should all be affected by the same amenity, but sometimes it won't be. Sometimes it won't be, but generally, you're right.
How far, I mean, we can only go out so far.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, unless you're in the middle of nowhere.
Well, I did the only duplex in Pungo, so I had to go like 30 miles for that one, but
We have one in North Carolina right now that they went out 32 miles.
you have to, yeah.
There's nothing out there.
So when you were talking about, like the train tracks and things like that, I thought about, there's certain cities where there's a lot of train tracks in the area. So what's the distance to the train tracks?
It's subjective. It's all subjective. Basically it would be, would it wake up your infant if it goes by? You know what I mean?
Did the train go by when the appraiser was there?
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, the best is when I'm doing it. The best is when I'm trying to talk to the. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you were saying that it wouldn't diminish value if I back up to a lower income.
It shouldn't, yeah. And just like if your neighbor's house is dilapidated, it shouldn't affect yours.
But as a realtor, my client is going to notice that it's going to make it less desirable.
That's true.
You're gonna make
Yeah.
them understand.
But once they're in contract, that means they're okay with it. If they're under contract with the agent, then they're okay with it.
It's like when I show up to do an appraisal and I'm talking to the owner, and then an FA-18 comes over 30 feet above my head, like screaming over. I'm like, gosh, how could you live? But the whole neighborhood's affected by it,
Right.
right? So everyone has kind of the same value. It's all affected by the same. This is kind of goes into like why a lot of times you won't see us make any adjustment for flood zone. Although this is changing, because the thought process when we were trained classically is everyone, if you're in a flood zone, generally the entire market area they're all in a flood zone. Okay. However, our market is not like that. You can have one house be in a flood zone and two houses down not be in a flood zone. So a lot of times you won't see adjustment for flood zone unless I have to, because I'll do the adjustments and like everything should be lining up and something's just not working out. I mean, why is this house $20,000 higher or lower? Then I go back and check the flood zones. Oh, there it is. And we mentioned earlier too. Oh, that's not good.
I want to ask a question about framing and then out to find the comp.
Yeah.
So if you framing, just so I understand, is finding a house that closely matches what you have and then and then looking at other house.
Yeah.
From there.
Mhm.
So if you can't find the comp to frame it, you can go out as far as 30 miles. Oh, just not
No, no,
always.
Yeah. So I go with, ideally, I'd like to be as close as possible. Like, we don't live in a perfect. I'll go as far out and sometimes further back in time. Sometimes. Typically though, I try to avoid that.
That's my next question.
Yeah, typically I will go further out in distance. I'll go as far as I need to get the information that I need. Okay, i.e. the duplex and Pungo.
Do you have to get the okay from the LO to do that?
No, because there's actually no rule that even says that. Okay, there may be some underwriting guidelines that say that, but from our perspective, I mean, if you're an appraiser in Montana and somebody tries to give you that basic, no, it's insane. So I go as far as I need to get data.
What is your typical, like, how far back in time do you go typically?
Generally, you want to be within 6 months. Up to a year is usually acceptable. Once you go further than a year, you're talking about a different market. Now, I have done it, and then I just have to make a comment telling why I did it. And it's usually because I'm trying to frame something really difficult, like, shoot, me think of a great example.
Airplane hangar.
Yeah, the airplane hangar. Dude, this was in Maryland, actually. This person, I'm not kidding, this person lived on an island in like the middle of the river, like a large river going on this island. He owned the island. He had like a 1,500 square foot Rambler and a 5,000 square foot airplane hangar in his back. Makes perfect sense, right? Just have a huge,
Absolutely.
yeah, small airport. I'm like, how do you frame that? Exactly, Maryland. How do you frame that? We worked with another appraiser once to do a Frank Lloyd Wright House. How far do you go for Frank Lloyd Wright House? I can tell you, because we found out nationwide, right? This was, yeah, the house that was being appraised was in Minneapolis. You know, you're going into Florida for comps. Same thing might happen for soup. We did still the highest one. Okay,
As long as it's.
we did an incredibly expensive house, last year?
Mhm.
I think it used to be the highest though, and maybe we got past now, but,
No, it's still-
so where did we go to find comps for this thing? This thing was over $7 million, all right? Well, the person buying it was buying from Northern Virginia out of state. So this client, they're considering Virginia Beach, this house. Would they also consider Annapolis, Maryland, Ocean City, Maryland, right? So you're looking at these huge estates through 3 different states, right? Because the person who's buying a $7 million house isn't generally geographically constricted to his job, like his 9 to 5, they can kind of live wherever they want. And that was the case with this one. We did pull one from Annapolis. So as far as how far we can go, I think underwriters like to see 6 months to a year, and within 1 mile. And that's great if we can make that happen. And generally we can. You know, there's a lot of houses in the 757. It's usually not hard, but sometimes you have to.
So one other quick question. So when you have like, there's been a rundown house or a group of rundown houses, and then you have someone come in and, you know, tear it down and rebuild it.
Mhm.
Now, this house that they've rebuilt, it's like, wow, this is really nice, but it's not the same as the rest of the
Mhm.
houses in that area. How do you?
Should have transitioning neighborhoods. Yeah. Well, hopefully by the time I get there, a couple have transitioned, right? But sometimes they haven't. Let's say the idea is, you know, there's a transitioning neighborhood where the old houses that are built in the 40s and 50s are being torn down to put new houses. And it's the first one, right? Well, I can't just pull comps from just that neighborhood because I'm going to handicap this house. It's not fair. We're right, you know what I mean? So what I'll have to do is just go to another competing neighborhood that is also transitioning and pull comps from there. Make sense?
Well, you can do it the same, right? We can use, I forget the word. We did that, what's the word? The house that you have in the market and they have been sold.
Oh, I see. No, I don't really consider those at all.
Jordan, what was the
So-
question?
Yeah, the question was, when doing an appraisal report, does he use the homes that have not been sold, the homes that have been sitting on the
Sitting on the
market? Do you use any active listings at all? Do you use pending sales? Do you, like, will you call a listing agent that's got a pending sale and say, hey, what are you under contract for, to see if that can support your price?
Sure.
Or
Yep.
do you only use solds?
No, that's a good question. So, yeah, so
Oh,
expired.
yes.
Yeah, no, because that has been exposed to the market, and at that price point, the market's not interested. So, yeah, I don't consider it a good data point. But Jordan asked a great question. Do we use active and pending sales? Depending on the loan product and the lender, sometimes we're required to. They want to see at least 2 active listings or pending and an active listing. And we do that because we look at the pendings and actives as kind of a verification for the market's going. Okay. So right now we are still in an appreciating market. I'm sure you guys know that. Houses aren't getting any cheaper. It's just harder to borrow money, but the houses are still expensive. So when you look at an active listing, what we expect to see is an unadjusted price for an active or pending sale slightly higher than our adjusted sales for the sold. That's what you should see, right? The listed house has been exposed to the market for 5-6 days. I expect that to be a little bit higher unadjusted values. And the underwriter looks for the same thing. So, but if they see the houses are, you know, our house went under contract a month ago, now we're getting the appraisal at $500,000, but comparable listings are $475. If the market conditions addendum is showing a declining market, well, then there's a red flag. That's why they want to see usually actors' opinions. But again, in our market, for the past couple of years, it was an appreciating market. Now, level/appreciating. And generally, again, what we see is active listings little bit higher than the settled sales, and that's what you should do. Any other ones before I pull up another one of these guys?
I know square footage isn't everything, but I have a screened-in porch. I throw in a Dyke mini split. Have I just increased my square footage? Is it just as simple as that?
Could be. So in order for it to be square footage, it has to have a heating source that will automatically heat the home to at least 70 degrees. Okay. So if you put in a mini split that was able to do that, you can set the temperature and it, yes.
Yeah.
What won't work if it's like a window unit that you have to manually turn the heat,
Okay.
or obviously one that's plugged and you can move around. But yeah, if it's permanently affixed to the house and it automatically it can warm the heat, yeah.
Is it because now it's considered living space?
Exactly, yeah. And cooling doesn't matter. You don't have to have air conditioning at all technically for living space. It just has to be heated.
So that actually brings up a question for like FHA and, you know, VA and stuff like that. What does the heat source have to be on? Does it have to be like, so it has to be on, right? Like there has to be a heat source in
Yeah,
order.
it has to be
have-
functional. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about for even conventional? I know you said don't ever ask for.
Yeah, for
conventional.
generally, and so I'm just generally for conventional, unless it's a lender required product, like the lender requires we test certain mechanical systems in the house. Generally, no. Always subject to change, because if you guys know anything about them, you guys all know in our world, there are very few hard and fast rules and everything changes and everything's open to interpretation. But as far as I'm concerned, if I have a conventional loan, by the way, I don't want to get in the way of any loan. Conventional, FHA, anything, right? So for conventional, I mean, I've never conditioned a conventional. So for FHA's, no, I have to, but yeah, for conventional, it'd be long as it exists and has an address, it's probably good. So
I mean, for a conventional, if it's not bank owned, do you need all the utilities like water, electric, everything on or not?
conventional, no, again, not unless it's for. Now, I might mention it in the report, it wouldn't be a required thing, it would just, I might mention it as a CYA. Like, hey, the heat's not on, the water was turned off, et cetera, but I'm not gonna condition it like it's come back. So, bring in another thing, there's a myth that appraisers sometimes like to condition houses because we get another $150 to go back out and re-inspect. It may be true with some appraisers, it's not for me. The worst thing I want to do is come back out, because that appointment slot, I could have a $600 appraisal in there instead of a $150 reinspection fee. I'd much rather just have it in and gone. So that's another reason why I'll call while I'm in the field. If I see there's gonna be an issue, I'll just call the listing agent, let them know right, sure.
So that brings another question though, and I think it might be in the list that we sent. Do you accept photos? Do you accept verbals for a reinspect, or do you have to go out there? Or can you accept those other things?
That's a good question. So technically, if it's FHA, technically the appraiser has to go back out. Which stinks, it's the worst. Now, there have been times where there have been like a repair that was part of the contract, where if it's an agent that I trust, and most agents we've worked with for years, we know them, we trust them, they have no reason to lie to me. Non-FHA, sometimes I would, yeah. Send me a picture, give me a verbal, let me know the power's on, we're good to go, right? FHA, unfortunately, I gotta go back out there, yeah.
The short sale of foreclosures affected size in the house.
Short sales of foreclosure in the neighborhood?
Yes, no, for that house. The house
No.
that is-
No, because it's market value, so it's gonna be a market value, yeah.
I got hit on a FHA, they wanted the toilet replaced because it had a low flow.
Look, man,
Do they actually test those? Is that real?
that person might.
I mean, I'm just saying, is that actually an
You
actual
fetch
FHA
it. Yeah, you
requirement
fetch it.
for an appraisal?
Maybe
I'm
they
curious.
hadn't noticed it.
That's what I
Yeah.
thought. I
No,
think that
we
may have
do,
worked.
we will flush, we are supposed to flush the toilets and stuff, but like, I mean, look, you can have the hall monitor tell you,
I'm just,
And-
it's just a curiosity question, because I have never seen an appraiser test a toilet.
I'm not surprised, I've heard of. I mean, I've heard crazy, and like I told you before, like, an appraiser making them like vacuum the top quarter inch of topsoil out of the yard.
It was just a curiosity question. It was an easy fix. Nobody
Yeah.
was upset about it. It was just, it was a weird one. It was the only thing that got taxed. The toilet had too low of a flow. They wanted it replaced.
Yeah, it's a strange world, man. I don't
And
know.
then I had another question. Can you go over a flex room?
What?
Flex room. I
Oh,
had a 4-bedroom house get tagged on an appraisal. I only got value for 3 bedrooms because the 4th was considered a flex.
Mhm.
What is that?
Yeah, what is that?
Yes.
Well, so bedroom, the definition of bedroom is somewhat, open to interpretation. In Virginia, you guys all know it's based on the state, right? Okay, so in Virginia, what makes a bedroom? Okay, I know you know. You don't have to have a closet. It has to be at least 70 square feet. It has to have, 2 points of ingress egress, and one of those points has to lead to the outside window. Ingress or egress, yeah. So it needs at least to have a door or window that goes to the outside. There are window requirements. I don't know them. Don't respect you two. You don't have to remember them. Just remember a firefighter with full gear should be able to get in and out. 30 inches up, and then
Yeah.
so like we don't have basements here, but like bedroom basements in most parts of the country, we've never considered bedrooms because they have the little port window. So it's not really a bedroom. But in Virginia, it doesn't have to have a closet. However, it has to function as a bedroom. This is where it gets to be a little bit tricky, right? So should it have a closet to function as a bedroom? Probably, okay? But it depends on where you are. Where was this house?
Norfolk.
Norfolk, okay. Well, just a little, doesn't help me a lot. I hate to use, makes fun of me because I always use Red Mill.
So let me give you an example. Okay, so it had more than 70 square feet. It had a closet, a window, a door to the interior of the house, but it also had a back door.
So what might have happened is, okay, so one of the final criteria is you shouldn't have to pass through the bedroom to get to another room. So if there was, say, the laundry, well, so what could have happened though, like if the laundry room is in the back, it would make that not a bedroom, it could make it a flex room. However, if in the market, if the houses like the shotgun style houses where sometimes they have like bedroom, like straight through like this, then you still consider the bedrooms because it's consistent with the market. On that one, it's hard for me to say. But the thing is, typically, and people don't believe me when I say this because I know your buyers when they're shopping for a house, they're looking for bedroom count. Yes or no? I need a 4-bedroom. I need a 5. But when you look at, again, the macro level, the macro market analysis, we actually, and I challenge you, you can't find a real difference in settled sale price between a 3-bedroom and 4-bedroom or 4-bedroom, 5-bedroom, 5-bedroom, 6, as long as it's 1-bedroom difference, because we make an adjustment in square footage. So if we made it in the square footage in the bedroom, we're going to be double dipping. And the theory behind that is typically a 4-bedroom house is going to be bigger than a 3-bedroom house. I know that's not always the case. But generally, from a macro standpoint, you're not going to see a big difference between 3-bedroom houses and 4-bedroom houses in the same community. Again, because why? You have buyers with all different sorts of criteria, right? Some have kids, some don't. It's the reason why pools don't have a lot of value, right? Half the people in the market want nothing to do with the pool. Okay, some people really want them, some people don't. Which brings me to probably the biggest one: solar panels. This is a good one. I'm surprised it wasn't in the question list. Okay, your solar panels add value to a house. At this point, I don't even know. I'll tell you what I mean. I'll tell you what I mean by that. Here's what I mean. So typically, solar panels will have no value. Why? Well, a large percentage of market participants don't want a rented system bolted to the top of their house. They think it's ugly, they go obsolete, after a couple of years, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So generally, despite whatever Solar City tells you, they're probably not going to raise your value at all. However, I have done appraisals where the solar panels did raise the value. It's a very different, trading situation. 95% of the solar panel systems you'll see are going to be leased. Yep. Do you want to assume a $30,000 lease? No, nobody does. However, I did one for Tom a few months ago. This guy was an electrical engineer, so he built his own solar array. It was in the backyard, so you couldn't see it from the street. It was amazing, huge battery banks. So his entire house was off grid. The system was paid for, and it heated the pool, and ran the entire ADU. The mother-in-law speak, call me idiots. Okay, that's worth money, because it's paid for. It was an amazing system. And the battery life, which is a big deal, the battery life was like 15 to 20 years, as far as like effective life before the batteries need to be replaced. So yeah, the market seemed like that system was worth about $40,000.
How
Okay,
do you adjust it?
well, we would adjust it in the grid. How do you adjust for it? You've got to find a system that's similar, right? Which is really a pain in the butt. I'm glad I have an assistant to help me on that one. Not her, she's not my assistant. I don't even think I have her doing my hard work.
The value comes from if it's leased or if it's owned.
Generally. And even then, sometimes owned systems, if they're bolted on the top, on the roof, in the front of the house. I mean, have you guys ever had a buyer say, hey, I'm really looking for a house with solar panels? Never. Right? I had one lady one time say yes, and it made me look silly. Really?
It's time to replace the roof.
So that's the question, is it if you have the in-ground
Apparently, yeah, and this one.
versus the ones on the roof that everybody has? Like,
Exactly.
say you have enough land, you have any land, you can put like.
And that's how this one was, and then he had
Yeah.
some that were on the shed. On the top of a shed. Oh, I shouldn't really a shed, more of a workspace, right? But yeah, completely different situation than, like you said, it's bolted on the roof, you don't even own it. And we need to replace a roof, it's a lot of additional costs.
Yeah.
Now other parts of the country, from California, Hawaii, the Southwest, well, yeah, it's gonna be a lot different, but here, not yet.
I'm waiting for the solar panel shingle.
That could be a huge difference, that could be a game changer, depending on their effective life. Yeah.
Here's the thing with this. Like, on roofs, it needs to be replaced. You're not gonna remove them to replace. the
Yeah.
daggone roof.
Yeah.
I,
And then you're also putting brand new, like, holes in brand new roofs. If
Right,
they-
like every single penetration on that roof is another leak waiting to happen. Stop.
yeah, and that's how people look at it, yeah.
I was in church. The other day, there was a group that looked like they were gonna rip it, so yeah, it's across the street.
They're starting to come around. you know.
I'm not sure. I just-
Yeah, they're starting to,
Yeah, solar panel, like-
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool.
Who knows how much they cost.
It's all paid for, the solar panel. And it's a standard solar, like what you see on the back of the house on the roof. Like, would you add value to that?
So I could, but I would have to, again, so anytime I add value to something or take away value, none of it should ever be based on my own opinion. Okay? That's how it brings themselves in trouble. It's being subjective. The only way I could ever do it is if I could see value in the market. And most of the time with something like that, it's just impossible. Okay? Now, again, so for the one that I mentioned, there was value in the source. That's because it was plain as day. It was incredibly clear that the buyer and the market reacted to those panels because of the system the way it was. Even for people who are pro solar, again, most of those people probably wouldn't buy a house that already had solar for that reason in itself. If they were pro solar, they would just get it installed on any house, right? So, are there some market participants who do think that solar? Sure, I'm sure there are, but just like I mentioned earlier with all copper plumbing, it's a great thing, but I can't extract that from the market. Okay, I can't find another house with copper plumbing and then try to like parse that out. It's most of the time. And another reason too is there's not popular enough. There's not enough sales of solar panel houses where I can only pull from that data set. I'm usually I have to find maybe one or two in a data set of 6 houses, so it's even harder that way.
I just wanted to get back to when you were talking about the pool.
Hmm.
So if you had someone, so for example, someone was like, I don't know if I want to sell my house, I might want to sell it, I'm not sure. There's like, but I kind of want a pool, will the pool add value or not, or should I not get the pool, or should I wait till I get the house that I know I want to be in?
Great question. Yeah, great question. If you're getting ready to list a house for sale, do not get a pool. No. So get a pool for your own enjoyment. And again, it goes back to what I mentioned before, kind of like solar panels, but not to the same extent. But we look at it. I mean, we would love to have a pool, right? I'm sure most people in here would, but there are a lot of people who don't want them. Okay, they don't want to deal with them. They have little kids. They don't want somebody to drown it, or maybe they're empty nesters. They have no need for a pool. It's just extra work. So although we've seen the value for pools go up since COVID, the cost to install pools has been at least double since 2019. Yeah. And, but even then, we're seeing maybe like a 30% increase for like the value we see given to a pool. But even then, a nice pool in a market where they're highly, highly sought after, like Sandridge. Highly sought after in Sandridge because that's what's going to increase your overall your revenue. Even then, $30,000, you know. And it's not because I don't like pools. It's just that's just what the market.
Find similar comps with the pool mostly.
Most of the time. Yeah, most of the time.
So
No, I don't know how to get them in there.
we do have a couple questions online. So somebody has asked, can we get the lowdown on basement adjustments?
All right, that's a good one. All right, basement adjustments. So thank goodness, we don't have a lot of true basements here because they could be a pain. Where I trained in the DC, Southern Maryland area, every house had a basement and it's an entire separate pain. So here's the way it works. Based on Fannie's guidelines, I can keep blocking the camera. Where's the
I mean, we've got,
camera? If any portion of a lower level, any portion at all, is below grade, that whole level is basement area. This is by Fannie's definition and cannot be included in the square footage. Period. Right? So let's say you have
Even if it's basement apartments, it's finished livable space,
Yeah.
it cannot be counted as square foot.
right. We'll still get credit for it.
You'll get credit for
Yeah,
it,
but it's not square footage.
Not considered square footage of the home.
Yeah.
If it's finished,
Even if it's
Everything.
Finished and livable.
This is Fannie's definition. So let's say,
What about a split level? I mean, some of them around here are dug in below.
Yeah, but they're not really, as long as they're walkout.
well, that's
right?
kind of a,
Well, they walk up, but basements usually-
well, this is a two-part answer.
Yeah.
The two, remind me to answer about the splits.
Yeah, because I've got one right now that's listed that's
Well,
walkout.
Well, remind me to about this, yeah, remind me, because that's,
Explain what you were
yes,
saying.
it's two separate. So imagine you have, we don't see a lot here, but in a lot of areas, you'll have like, let's say hilly areas. Pittsburgh. You ever been to Pittsburgh? It's all hilly.
Flip brain.
Glen Brink. Williamsburg, anyway, all right, that's hilly. So you see you have two levels and then you'll have like half level on the bottom and then a walkout in the back. Based on Fannie's definition, that bottom level, because that portion is below grade, basement cannot include its square footage, period. That's their definition. Now, again, you still get credit for it. You still get credit for the rooms, for the toilets, for the bath, everything down there, you still get credit. However, you can't include its square footage. Now, her parents just sold their house in Maryland. It was, just imagine it's a single level house, right? 4 bedrooms on top, but then basically the entire house is mirrored underground. 4 more bedrooms down there, 2 bathrooms down there, a kitchen. Not square footage.
that's.
Okay. That's not my definition. That's
But I mean,
Fannie.
So they take the higher grade to consider on grade. Because there's obviously land you step out onto in the backyard that's great.
That's their definition. But the good news is because we don't have very many true basements here. And by the way, basement ceiling height has to be at least 7 feet. Most of the time, they're not gonna be 7 feet here.
Is it considered a crawl if it's not?
Cellar, I used to call it a cellar, because it's a little better, but yeah, it's a crawl space. Yeah, I mean, maybe that's fine. I don't know. But for split levels in our area, okay, Fannie gives us a little bit of leeway. So if you have like a split level where one of the portions is partly underground, as long as I can find comps that are like that and I treat them all the same, i.e. Yeah, I mean, partially.
Just kidding.
Yeah. Well, so what I would have to do is find other comps like that, and as long as I can treat them consistently, we have a kind of an out in our region because we just don't have a lot of true basements. And even when I've seen a true basement, you can't draw value from it because there isn't anything to compare from. There's just nothing there.
On a
So
split level. Why? House that I sold earlier this year.
Yeah.
Was a tri-level, and she thought she had flood insurance for 11 years. Until it flooded and with FEMA. and flooded, and she realized the fine print says we don't cover anything subterranean.
Oh,
Even though the den was only this far below grade.
Right.
So one more question online, sorry, Leticia, is, and it actually refers, kind of ties in with, you said a basement has to be 7 foot to be considered a basement. What about a bedroom, like for Cape Cod styles?
Oh, awesome
And,
question. That's a
you
really good question. Yeah, so, believe it or not, for the past, I don't know, I think the appraisal profession was standardized certainly in the early 90s. Before that, you didn't have to have a license, oddly enough, but, so between then and like 2 years ago, there was no standardized way to measure a house. Which seems like there should be, but actually it's for a good reason. So a couple years ago, they came out with this idea of kind of bifurcated appraisal. Anybody heard of these? Basically, it means a person who's not an appraiser comes to the house, takes all the pictures, does all the measurements, and then sends it to me electronically. And I do the appraisal. They did that when they were just, the loan volume was insane, and they would just not a problem anymore. That's why you haven't heard about it. But so they had to standardize how they measured it, because these people who are measuring the houses aren't appraisers. So they said that you measure the house within the nearest 1/10 of a foot, and et cetera, et cetera. One of the criteria, based on what's called the ANSI standard, American National Standards Institute, is that ceiling height must be at least 7 feet. Okay, that sounds good in theory, but in our area, we have a lot of houses with gable roofs, Cape Cod, stuff like that. And if I were to measure by that standard, there was one that I did where the top floor obviously was sloped, and the only top that was 7 feet was like a 1 foot section down the middle. So on the grid, and there was 3 bedrooms up there. So on my sketch, it would show a 2 foot by 40 foot strip. That's unbelievable. That's not accurate. Okay, especially when all the houses in the neighborhood are all reported in the old standard, which was measured from wall to wall. Okay, so what we will do now, you may get an appraiser that sticks to that 7 foot height. So basically means if this is a bedroom and right here the ceiling starts to slope, and right here is 7 feet, all this section over here I can't include. Okay, that's by ANSI standard. But when these houses were built and reported to the local jurisdiction, they weren't using that standard. So I'm going to handicap the house I'm appraising because there's a new standard, but all the comparable sales are the exact same house maybe, but they're reported as being 600 square feet bigger. That's just not right. So it would just be a section. So what I do now, and I've talked with other appraisers about this too in our area, because it's important that we kind of stay consistent. I'm not saying that I ignore that standard, the 7 foot standard, because I don't. But for bedrooms, especially on second levels, I'm still measuring wall to wall because it's not a personal thing, but that's how other houses are being reported. So if I do it differently, I'm going to get an inaccurate result.
When they purchase the home, they purchase the exact square footage.
Exactly. Yeah. And they're paying taxes on that square footage. And
Here's a tiny house thing.
I've never done one.
Ours appraisals.
Yeah, I've never done one, but yeah, I've never done one, but I think probably because most of those are cash things, maybe, but
I mean, are they treated like a home or are they shit?
I mean, they would be as long as they meet basic, like I think for FH, as far as I know, I mean, the LOs can help me out, but as far as I know, I mean, there are minimum probably square footage guidelines for, yeah, I'm sure there is I know there is this for FHA. I think it's 400, 500 square feet, but yeah, I'm sure there's minimum guidelines that will probably, yeah, which is probably why I haven't appraised one ever, so. Anybody have anything else before I get some more questions?
I have a question about solar panels. Is a battery, like having a separate battery, does that add value to the house?
Yeah, well, again, all
On a
depends.
home system, the battery.
Yeah, and that's, so the one that I outlined before, where the electrical engineer built the system, probably the crux of it is the fact that he had this massive lithium battery bank.
That makes a difference.
Oh, yeah, because you're actually storing that energy. I mean, I'm not an expert on how solar panels work, but my understanding is when you create electricity, right? What you don't use gets put back into the grid. Okay, so you're creating the energy in your house, but then whatever you don't use goes back in the grid. Maybe you get a rebate for it or whatever. The way this guy has it set up, he's creating energy with the solar panels and then storing it in his lithium battery. So he's creating the energy and then storing it on site for use. So yeah, that makes a difference. And that's probably why he didn't get any value at all, because it's just such a unique system.
It's time for that one more question.
Anybody have anything else? Let me see what I get to here quickly before I get out of here. Yeah.
Upgrades.
Yeah.
I'm thinking this is about 1932.
You keep that question.
Kind of upgrades. Only upgrades.
How do we determine that?
Guys, it's gonna be hard for the people online to hear. I couldn't even hear what Carolyn was asking.
No, sorry. She was asking about, how do we factor in upgrades? How do we figure, can you go back to the grid? So what I mentioned before, if you ever have anything,
Chris, can you repeat the question just one more time?
she was asking how we factor in upgrades, like how do we get the value, et cetera, et cetera. So if you guys ever have an issue about, like, let's say you're doing a CMA, you're trying to price a house, and this comes up, right? Who does like some sort of grid like this, or anything, it doesn't have to be this, it could be an Excel spreadsheet, it could be pencil and paper. Does anybody do this, or you guys just run the CMA? Well, you should, and I'll tell you why. So if you take a house, your house, and then pick like 3 or 4 year comps, right? The best ones you can find. If you kind of write out the attributes of the house, garage, square footage, you'll see that most of the stuff, most of the attributes of a house need no adjustment because they're pretty much the same. You're gonna see there's like 5 things you adjust for generally, right? One of them being condition, which is condition is here. Okay, so good $20,000. So here's how I did that. I should also say that this is a private case. So if it were a lending case, instead of saying average, it would say C3, and this would say C4. But this is because this is private, it's plain language. So if I want to figure out how much this condition was worth here, and or you are as well, right? Well, you take and can basically eliminate every other thing. Like if I adjust for square footage, let's say it comes at $40 a square foot, I make that adjustment, et cetera, et cetera. What's left over, right? Because you can do the same thing for a pool. What's left is going to be my adjustment for the condition. Okay, and that's how I'm determining how the market is reacting to that specific thing. It's never going to be an exact, no one can, and if an appraiser tells you that they can, they're lying. Okay, it's called undue specificity. Okay, I can't tell you exactly how much upgrades are going to be worth. Why? They're different. Upgrades are different, worth different things to different people. Okay, again, it's not my opinion. It's how the market reacts. So if you need to figure out how much that's worth, equalize everything else out, and then see what you have left over. Then you can start to make an adjustment. Now, I know we're almost out of time, but reference adjustments, I want to give you guys some guidelines, some quick guidelines that when you are trying to price a house or look for comps, there's no book that I have of adjustments. I'm just going to give you a few that I normally do that. I mean, I do about 600 of these a year. So I kind of see the same things over and over and over again. All right, everybody ready? The last thing we're going to do. So let's start at the top. The site area. Generally, if it's under an acre, you want to start, and again, these are all in a bell curve. Okay, these aren't hard and fast rules. You want to start around 50 cents per square foot. Start there. You go 25 cents to 75 cents, and then when you get to acreage is generally going to be like 3,000, 5,000 per acre. And again, somebody's going to say you can't buy an acre of land for 3,000. No, you can't. It's the contributory value. Contributory value. Right?
3 to 5, you said?
Man.
Yeah, usually 3,000 to 5,000 generally for an acre.
$80 would be.
Yeah, for an acre, 3,000 to 5,000 per acre. Here's why. I know it doesn't make people look at me like I'm crazy when I say this. Imagine you have a ranch house here on an acre of land. You have a ranch here on 2 acres of land, and you get a vacant acre of land. How much is it? Somebody give me a roundabout. What's an acre of land worth?
What city?
Say Virginia Beach.
Oh, Jesus, it could be $300,000.
Okay. Let's say 150 just to make it easy. Just to make it easy. Well, do your market analysis, you'll see that the house on 2 acres of land is not worth $150,000 more than the house on 1. It's just not. Okay. Because-
It's not subdivided.
Right. And once you build on the land, the value of that land is now in the structure. Okay. That makes sense. So that's why, again, if you try to make the adjustment, go ahead and try to price out a 2 acre house that has 1 acre of land. You find with 2 acres, go ahead and take off $300,000 from that price of the house to see where you end up. You're in the negative. You're like, what's going on? It's because that's not what the contributory value is. All right. Now we already talked about design style. You're generally never going to make an adjustment for design style in itself, yeah. There goes your property value. You're generally never gonna make an adjustment for your design style in itself, all right? You wanna try to pick houses that are the same design, but you might not be able to. Age. We do not make adjustments for age. Ever. And I just had to argue with an underwriter who's probably like 19 years old in Ohio about this. Here's why. Actual age is almost irrelevant, right? Could a 15-year-old house be in better shape than a 50-year-old house be in better shape than a 15-year-old? Absolutely. So we use what's called effective age. Effective age. Okay. Effective age means this. When I build a house, it's brand new. From the time I stop working on it, its effective age starts to increase. It gets older and older and older and older and older. Okay. So let's say you don't touch a house for 15 years. You don't touch it. Okay. You're looking at a house that's way below average, right? But when you do the floors, so you do the roof, replace the HVAC, or you do the kitchen, what you're doing is kind of setting that clock back on the effective age. Okay. So we won't make any adjustments here to the actual age because the effective age is here in the condition. Okay. So as long as the effective ages are, so you could even say it this way. I didn't make a condition adjustment here, which it says condition. I made an age adjustment there because that's the effective age. Does that make sense what I'm saying? You generally for age, you're not going to do the adjustment.
If you find similar comps of similar condition with same age, would you match it with a newer age?
Age is not relevant. Condition. Yeah. Well, if this house is 200 years old, and it's like,
Okay.
yeah. But generally is condition only. Okay.
But in the same neighborhood, if you find like 5 comps like built in 1980s and 2 comps built in 2004, would you, and they're all in the same condition, would you use the 2004 built?
Yeah. 100%.
And so do those still stay away from like actual brand new construction versus?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I know. All right, let me move on. Bedroom count, we already talked about that. We don't usually make bedroom count adjustments because we make it for here. But again, if you can compare apples to apples, you want to, right? For a bathroom, we're normally gonna see 2,500 to 5,000 for a half bath, and 5 to 10 for a full.
I found this on the way.
Yeah, I thought somebody was calling out. I thought somebody was like, actually, usually for a full 5 to 10, generally for. Again, this is all in a bell curve. Usually a garage, usually $5,000 to $10,000 per bay. So per one car, 5 to 10 per one car, 10 to 20 for 2. Fireplaces, I made an adjustment here in our area. Nobody is freezing like fireplace, is not that big of a deal. So you normally you could, yeah. I happen to see it in the market here, but generally, and even in the CMA, you're not gonna be able to pull that out.
So in your opinion, gas or preferable in terms of that?
The only way that I could answer that question would be to give my personal opinion, and my personal opinion is wood, because I mean, you want to build a fire, right? We have a gas insert, and I think it's worthless. I don't want to.
Personal opinion is the vice versa.
Yeah, so generally they're gonna be valuable.
Where did you go after that? I'm sorry.
What are they? Yeah, garage is usually about 5,000 to 10,000 per bay. And people ask me sometimes like, why do I give these numbers away? Again, it's a bell curve. Because
Is there one?
yeah, actually it's the opposite. Normally what happens is people are like, holy shit, this is hard. And they call me anyways. So do we miss anything?
Fence.
Oh, sheds, fences, pools. Generally, sheds, fences, if they're really nice, you're gonna be around the $2,000 thing. Workshops can go a little higher. Pools, this case, I believe, was from 20. He's a little bit of an older
You said
grid. The pool generally we're gonna see 20 to 30. Yeah, usually. And again, this is all on a bell curve. Yeah, all on a bell curve.
And then you said fence,
And an
what?
event?
Yeah, it's your personal opinion.
No, it's not my personal opinion. No, it is not my personal opinion. That's the
2K
thing.
to the fence if it's nice, if it's really big.
So even then, because again, think about like, let me give you an example.
I apologize.
No, you're fine. So the reason why sheds and fences don't really have a lot of value, let's say 1,500 to 2,000 maybe.
Okay.
Here's why. We bought,
Big bear.
but they're not even that. These are secondary considerations for buyers. For example, we bought our house. We needed to get in a house. Then we got in the house. Yeah, I gotta go to a shed. But I didn't even think about that before we bought the house. I just want to buy the house. So that's why you don't really. They actually come to the same thing.
Yeah, brand new Trex decking, with modern Trex decking.
I mean, so these are something like Trex versus wood, or let's say copper plumbing versus normal. You're not gonna see it in our grid itemized out because you're not gonna be able to find that in the market data. So you're gonna see here in this called the custom decor and upgrades. This is kind of a catch-all for the nicer things, right?
Here's a sign.
They do.
It depends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do. They do. No, they do. This goes back to like, buyers are searching for a house based on bedroom count, but from the appraiser standpoint, we can't, it's impossible for us to find any difference in that value in the market. The same thing goes with the sheds and the fences, because even though the buyers might want that, houses without them sell all the time for the same price.
Now, what about the workshop that for the value?
Usually about the same. I gotta go. So again, it depends on how nice it is, but somewhere north of a shed, but less than a in-law suite.
I mean,
Usually
if you're
about
gonna
nice.
have like an actual like 5-day working.
Yeah,
workshop,
they
it's
can be
probably
big.
It also depends on the type of workshop, so.
Yep.
All right,
You went over bathrooms, but bedrooms, I know you said there's not a huge difference, but do you add any kind of thing going from a 3 to a 4 or 4 to 5?
No. I mean, but I also wouldn't compare a 5 to a 2.
Right.
So as long as it's within 1 bedroom, you're really not gonna see a lot of big difference. The exception is if you do like 1 or 2 bedroom. The 2 to a 3 is a difference, right?
Still considered to be like bread.
I mean, yeah, generally, I mean,
There's no vinyl side out.
yeah, because even then, again, if a buyer, they got orders here from San Diego, they gotta get their kids into school, they got this, their stuff in storage. They're not really looking at, is it brick or not? Right, really buy the house. It's why we can't really draw it from that.
How much can be the, brand new kitchen with granite and one, brand new kitchen with no granite?
Again, so that's gonna go in the overall condition, or decor and upgrades. Depending on the market, you might give it, but the thing is, granted, it's so ubiquitous now. We see it even on like, even on lower price houses, we always see granite now, so.
And for any additional questions, we do a Facebook group called Appraisal Optics, post questions there. We also have some of these documents in that group too. But there is a loan officer here waiting for a report, and Chris doesn't leave, we're gonna be late on that report. I'm not gonna say who it
Did you say their website?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
so it's a Facebook group, called Appraisal
Put it
Optics.
into your,
Onto the chat.
yeah, I
Yeah.
can put it into the chat, and I can also put it in your coastal town Facebook
Yep.
thing.
Yep, absolutely. And we can post the group in the coastal town group, but it is called Appraisal Optics.
Mhm.
I would just like to personally thank Chris and Britt for coming out once again. Thank you so much. Yeah, let's if everybody can come up here, we're gonna get a group picture. I'm gonna see if
They
I
can
can
sit-
get
they wanna
Carla.
sit-
Or they can sit, whatever you guys wanna do. Yeah, you can pick up on everybody.
Going on Monday.
All right, everybody, come on up. Come on up. Yeah, thank you. So much for coming.
Yeah.
Like, we're gonna go ahead and end online.